The galaxy thought humans were fragile, breakable, insignificant. When the Krynn Ascendancy rose to power, enslaving entire species and crushing rebellions with merciless precision, they believed humanity would be no different. To them, we were just another backwater race with soft bodies and short lifespans. Easy to conquer, easy to erase, but they made one mistake. They took the most beautiful human girl and they tried to break her. Before I continue, I want you to do something. Type in the comments where in the world you're watching this from right now. I love seeing how far these stories travel across Earth, because no matter where we are, this is our story. Humanity's story. Her name was Selene Ward, Earth's most beloved daughter, known not only for her beauty, but for her voice, her courage, and her role as an ambassador for peace. The Krynn believed that capturing her would shatter humanity's spirit. They wanted to make an example of her, to show the galaxy that even humanity's brightest star could be extinguished. Selene was taken aboard the Krynn flagship, a monstrous vessel of black alloy with crimson lights burning through the dark. The commander of the Ascendancy, Kor, stood before her in the Grand Chamber as millions across the galaxy watched the broadcast. His voice boomed through translators in 100 tongues. He declared that this human would be broken, that her screams would echo as a warning to every world that thought to resist Krynn dominion. They chained her in front of him, her wrists bound with plasma cuffs that seared her skin. She stood there, battered from capture, blood stained in her face. But still she lifted her head and stared into the eyes of the warlord. Her silence was louder than any speech, and that silence infuriated him. The torture began. For hours they subjected her to pain beyond imagination. Alien whips glowed with electrical fire as they lashed across her back. Machines probed her nerves, amplifying every flicker of agony until the body could scarcely endure it. They deprived her of food, of water, of rest. They dragged her before crowds of jeering Krynn citizens who spat and mocked her. But Selene never screamed, not once. Even as her body shook with exhaustion, even as her skin burned and bled, she clenched her jaw and held her silence. She gave them nothing, and that silence became a weapon. On Earth, people watched in horror as the broadcasts were forced onto every channel. The Krynn expected despair. They expected humanity to weep and cower, to lose hope as the symbol of peace was torn apart. Instead, something else stirred: fury. On Mars, workers whispered her name. Soldiers on distant outposts painted her likeness onto their armor. Families huddled in slums replayed the footage of her unbroken silence again and again. The Krynn wanted her to be humanity's shame. Instead, she became our fire. Kor grew impatient. Each day he escalated her suffering, determined to break her spirit. He wanted her to kneel, to beg for mercy, to denounce her own people. But Selene gave him nothing except defiance in her eyes. On the 7th day, weakened and barely able to stand, she was dragged once more into the chamber. The galaxy held its breath as Kor entered her cell. Towering, armored, his voice thundered. He demanded she kneel. He demanded she admit humanity was weak and unworthy of survival. Selene, barely breathing, lifted her face to him. Her eyes bloodshot, her lips cracked, her voice faint but clear. With her final breath, she whispered, "Humanity kneels to no one." Then she died. Her body collapsed at his feet. The broadcast went silent, and in that silence, the Krynn believed they had won. They thought her death was humanity's defeat, but in truth, it was the moment the galaxy changed forever. On Earth, grief turned to rage. No longer divided by borders or politics, no longer scattered in quarrels and mistrust, humanity stood as one. Selene's final words burned into our souls. Her name became a rallying cry, her face a banner of defiance. Humanity had been fractured for centuries, but Selene's death bound us together in unity. Factories roared to life. Starship yards churned out warships faster than ever before. Old rivals set aside hatred to fight side by side. The colonies of Mars, Luna, Europa, once estranged from Earth, pledged everything they had. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival. We were fighting for her, for Selene Ward. At the forefront stood Commander Elias Kane, Selene's childhood friend and now leader of Earth's united forces. He swore before the entire council, "We will bring her home," and the Krynn Ascendancy will drown in their regret. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human fleets surged into Krynn space, striking with precision and fury. The Ascendancy had ruled with fear for centuries, but fear did not stop humanity. We fought with a fire that no other species had ever shown. For every world they tried to hold, we burned a fleet. For every colony they enslaved, we brought rebellion, and everywhere one name echoed: Selene. Soldiers painted her last words on the hulls of ships. Civilians on liberated worlds shouted her name in the streets. Even Krynn slaves who had lived in silence for generations rose up in revolt, inspired by the story of one human woman who endured 7 days of torment without bending her knee. Velak Kor could not understand it. To him, she was just one human, insignificant, replaceable. But humanity is not measured in numbers or in strength of body. Humanity's power is in spirit, and Selene's spirit had awakened a storm. The war became a nightmare for the Krynn. Their fleets crumbled, their worlds rebelled, their empire fractured. Velak Kor's broadcast turned desperate, his punishments harsher, but the more he raged, the more his empire slipped away. Finally, the day came when the united human fleet arrived at the Krynn homeworld itself. Millions of ships filled the skies. Elias Kane led the charge aboard his flagship, carrying Selene's name etched into the armor on his chest. Velak Kor assembled his remaining forces, desperate to defend the heart of his empire. But even his own soldiers had begun to whisper her words. Even among the Krynn ranks, belief in their supremacy had been shaken. And when Kane's fleet descended, the galaxy witnessed the impossible, the Ascendancy, unshakable for centuries, collapsing before the will of humanity. In the final battle, Kane's forces stormed Velak Kor's flagship. The warlord fought savagely, but even he could not stand against the fury of a united human race. And in those final moments, as the Krynn Empire burned, Kane activated the comms. Across every frequency, on every world, Selene's final words were broadcast again. Humanity kneels to no one. The words echoed as the Krynn flagship shattered in fire and steel, and the empire of cruelty was reduced to ash. The Krynn learned the truth too late. They believed torture could break us. They believed death could silence us, but they were wrong. Selene's suffering did not destroy humanity. It transformed us. It gave us unity. It gave us purpose. It gave us victory. Her legacy lived on not only in statues and memorials, but in the creed of our species. Children grew up learning her story. Soldiers carried her words into battle. Entire worlds remembered the day a single human woman defied the greatest empire in the galaxy and paid with her life so that humanity could rise. Why would the universe never again underestimate humans? Because the galaxy now knows a truth they cannot unlearn. You can torture us, you can kill us, but you will never break us. Humanity kneels to no one. And if you believe that too, let me know in the comments right now. Type "humanity kneels to no one." Make sure to subscribe because there are more human victories you need to hear.